Hello, everyone. My name is Dominga Robinson. I'm here today to talk to you about Culture Days. Who am I? I'm a consultant for SaskCulture. One of the programs that I run is the Culture Days Funding Assistance Program. I have been working in community programming for over 15 years and have done many different things. I am Nakota and Jamaican. My Nakota side is from the Pheasant Rump Nakota First Nations in the southeast corner of the province. Today we're going to talk about Culture Days. Here's a little bit of the agenda and what we're going to go over. We're going to talk about who is SaskCulture. There's a lot of misconceptions about who we are, so I'm going to make sure that's very clear. I'm also going to clarify what is culture. We have a very firm definition of what culture is. That's because we have to do funding programs and need to make sure that that's very clear for everyone. Then I'm going to talk about what is Culture Days. How can people get involved in Culture Days? Some of the important dates that you need to know around Culture Days. I'm going to talk about who participates in Culture Days, tips for registering your activities online. Then I'm going to get into the funding program and what kind of things you need to think about around there and some tips. I'm going to talk about partnerships and how that's an important key element of Culture Days. I'm going to talk about activity registration, tools and resources, support from SaskCulture, social media and how you can connect with us, and then I'm going to give some examples of things that have worked for people in the community. So who is SaskCulture? We're actually Saskatchewan Lotteries funded. We are a nonprofit, community-based, volunteer-driven provincial cultural organization. So we are a nonprofit, the same as most nonprofit organizations in this community. What we do different though is we distribute a portion of the lottery funds. So in our province here, we have a system set up where a portion of lottery proceeds go back into the community through SaskCulture, SaskSport, and Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association. And we do this through various funding models. What is SaskCulture? SaskCulture, we have to have a definition of this just connected to funding. And just to clarify, because culture is such a big concept in the world, we had to kind of refine that down a little bit. So when we talk about culture, we're talking about the arts, we're talking about multiculturalism, we're talking about heritage, that's your museums, and we're talking about cultural industries. So these are cultural activities that result in the development of a product that would be then turned around and sold for a profit. So that is what we mean by culture. So keep that in mind as we go throughout the rest of this presentation. What is Culture Days? Culture Days is a national initiative that started in, I think, 2008. And what it is an opportunity for cultural organizations to kind of open their doors and gain new audience. So you get to offer these things for free to people. It happens every year on the last week in September. So this year it's going to take place September 29th, 30th, and October 1st. And it's an opportunity to provide hands-on free activities to the community and help to build your community and share what's going on with each other through this initiative. So anyone in Canada will be registering for Culture Days. You have to go to www.culturedays.ca. There are 4 elements that need to take place to ensure that it's a true Culture Days activity. It must be free. This is about accessibility and gaining new audience, so having it be free is very important. Activities must take place on the Culture Days weekend, which again I said is always the last weekend of September. Activities must be interactive or participatory in some way. So people need to be getting out and doing something. And you must register your activity on the Culture Days website to be included in all the cool things that happen. So that's a little bit about how people can get involved in Culture Days. It's plan an activity and register it, and then you can go ahead and have this going on. Some of the important dates that you need to know around Culture Days is upcoming right away is the deadline for funding assistance. So that's happening April 17th. April 25th is when we're going to open the event registration online. So at that time you can go in and start your registration process of your event. You don't have to have it complete. You can always go in and revise this, but it's when everything can start and you can start promotion that way. May 31st is the end of the early registration period. August 25th is the promotional items registration deadline. So one of the things that we do, and I'll talk a little bit about this later on, is we provide promotional items to all of the people who register for Culture Days. So this is the deadline for that, is August 25th. To be included in any of the promotions that happens, you have to register by September 18th at the very end. After that, you will not be able to register your event. And then September 29th, 30th, and October 1st is Culture Days weekend. Who participates in Culture Days? Well, there's a broad groups of people that do this in the communities, but usually you're going to find that organizers are cultural organizations, your museums, your art galleries, your municipalities, local businesses sometimes fix these up, and they're always great to have in addition to this. And then amateur and professional creators tend to get involved as well and offer things to the community for free. Attendees are generally everyone. We want community coming out together to participate in Culture Days. So the general public, you'll see activities happening in schools on Culture Days Friday. Families tend to come out to these a lot, and it's just a great family fun activity that everyone can get involved in. And then youth focused activities are also really successful. So tips for activity registration. So you've now decided you want to do one. You're going to use your email address or Facebook to log in to create an online account on culturedays.ca. Again, register by July 31st to qualify for our promotional items. You can select multiple days if your activity is happening more than once on a Culture Days weekend. So breaking them out is always like a thing that we suggest people do. This it goes for as well as if your activities are happening in more than one location, ensuring that those are broken out into separate postings, as well as for each activity. This provides an opportunity for people to come and go. If I know that from 11 to noon I can go and participate in corn husk doll making, I will go to that and maybe go on to another event afterwards, but it gives me that opportunity to choose what I want to do instead of potentially sitting for a whole day. Use a common hub name. So if you are partnering with other people, make sure to use a name like the library hub or the downtown hub or the arts hub. Try to come up with a common hub name. That'll make it a little bit easier for people to identify what it is that you're doing. And then if you have done Culture Days in the past, you can always go in and duplicate your previous activity posting and just make small edits. So your login, once you create that, it stays. So you can go in and access that again for next year or this year. I'm going to talk now about the Funding Assistance Program with the deadline coming up of April 17th. This program is about trying to assist organizations to pay for artists and to pay for the supplies needed to do activities on that weekend. It's about encouraging people to try something new and hopefully becoming regular participants in your cultural activities. Again, like I said, the hiring of Saskatchewan artists and cultural workers is a really key element to this funding program, as well as interactive and diverse cultural activities and communities across the province. So we like to see people trying to do different things, engaging with each other in different ways, testing things out for Culture Days. To be eligible to apply for the CDFA program, you must be a nonprofit organization and have a primarily cultural or multicultural mandate, or you can be a First Nations band, a Métis local, or a municipality. You must provide hands-on interactive cultural experiences for the participants, again, encouraging people to try something new, the hiring of the artists and workers, and it has to be free to the public. You can't charge fees on Culture Days weekend for anything. Again, deadline April 17th, so we have a little bit of time left to get in an application in there. We have two different funding streams under this funding grant. There's the Culture Days Hubs, which is a minimum of 3 organizations coming together in a partnership to offer Culture Days activities. The maximum amount on that one is $4,000 that you can apply for. We like to usually see those happening in communities where there are more than one cultural organization there, where you can partner and work together and share resources to be able to offer something instead of competing. Culture Days events are presented by one organization and you can apply for a maximum of $1,000. We tend to see these more in rural communities where they don't have people to partner with, so that's usually kind of the mindset behind the two funding streams. Let's talk a little bit about some tips. I'm going to give you some tips when you're trying to go in here. You want to ensure that you're trying to do something where people can become a regular participant. You're encouraging new people to come out. So ensure that that's your goal and your intended impact. Again, the hiring of Saskatchewan artists. That should most likely be your highest budget line when applying for this grant, is the hiring of the artists and the cultural workers to actually do the programming. And then a wide range of interactive and diverse cultural activities. This year we've kind of put a priority or a encouraging of organizations to consider looking at the TRC calls to action and reconciliation efforts, as well as potential Canada 150 celebrations, again, around reconciliation potentially. There's a great synergy there potentially. Significant priority is given to projects that provide hands-on and interactive cultural experiences. So instead of me going and watching a demonstration of dancers, I would get up and participate as a workshop. That's the kind of the difference in what we mean, as opposed to a passive nature where I'm sitting and watching a demonstration. It's more about me getting in and actually making something out of clay or painting a rock or dancing. So yeah, last year I got to try some Ethiopian dancing. It was absolutely so much fun. They had to be engaging and accessible and free to the public and contribute significantly to community involvement, including partnerships. So this is where I was talking again, the hub grant in itself is intended to encourage those partnerships to happen. Now let's talk about why you would partner for Culture Days. It's going to expand your collective outreach. This is sharing of audiences, building new audiences for each other. You're going to lessen the workload of putting on something like this by dividing tasks and sharing volunteers potentially. You have a higher percentage of getting media coverage if you're working with more than one organization and you're doing something bigger than separately. It just will add to the potential of you actually getting picked up by the media. It will showcase cultural activity in your area. So again, like I was saying, a lot of times people don't know what's happening within their own communities. This is an opportunity for everyone to get out and share what each others are doing. What's the writing group doing? What's the arts council doing? What is the multicultural groups doing? How can you come together and showcase that together to your entire community? Attracting more people to your activities because they will go to one place instead of 5, and then sharing your promotions as well. So cross-cultural or cross-community promotions is also another benefit that comes out of partnerships for Culture Days. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the tools and resources that we have in place to kind of assist people to be able to offer these things. So we have a participation guide that's online that's going to give you some tips and tools on how to develop this, as well as a community organizer toolbox. We have a PR toolkit, so to help you with getting the word out to the community. We have a sponsorship toolkit to help you find additional funding if necessary. We have customizable advertising templates. So we've got posters, we've got postcards, we got bumpers, all these web badges and banners, and there's tons of different advertising templates, so you can go in, edit them, and make them so that they're your own, but you're also still a part of the bigger picture of Culture Days. We have tip sheets on a range of topics. We got personal schedulers to help you do your activity planning. There's tons of different tools and resources available online at culturedays.ca. How does SaskCulture support Culture Days? I'm here to answer your questions and concerns, particularly around funding. If there are questions around promotional items and marketing, we have people there to help as well. We will come and do information sessions in your communities. We do a Culture Days newsletter that comes out on a regular basis. It provides people with updates on cool things as well as pertinent dates. Culture Days flags. We will send out a flag to your community if you can get your municipality to proclaim that it's Culture Days weekend and make that proclamation through council. We will provide you with the flags to fly in front of your city hall. We support peer-to-peer learning through social media, blogs, and tips and tools. We purchase advertising and develop media sponsorships to raise the profile of Culture Days across the province. So you're going to see radio ads, you're going to see billboards, you're going to see potentially TV ads, all of these pointing people towards your Culture Days activities. So we do conduct a provincial PR campaign around Culture Days. So that's some of the things that SaskCulture does to support it, as well as the funding program. Please connect with us through social media to keep part of our network, to keep abreast of what's going on. We have a Twitter at SaskCulture, at SK Culture Days, and then we have our organizational Twitter, which is at SaskCulture. And then on the national level, it's at Culture Days for Twitter, and at Fête de la Culture is there also their other Twitter page. I'm going to quickly talk about some things that have worked in the community and some success stories. Last year in Regina, the Creative City Center had a hub downtown. During this hub, what they had was in the evening on the Friday night, they had a live band karaoke. So they got a live band to come out and people could just go up there and karaoke with this live band. They partnered with some other local communities, including the Mackenzie Art Gallery, to do an art walk. There's been an installation that's been put in downtown Regina, so they use that as an opportunity to do this art walk and take people around. They had a pop-up writing space where they had a writer there, able to help people out with any of their writings, and just a safe place to be able to discuss writing and their potential projects. They had a cultural trailways walking tour, which talked about the built heritage and the history of the buildings downtown. They had steamroller print wrapping. They had steamroller printing. So they developed a print with the Regina Newcomers youth, and they used that as a design template, and they created prints with the steamroller right on the street. They had a graffiti rap battle. So different graffiti artists were present, and they wrapped these clear bands around trees, and they used spray paint to create kind of a competition and all of these cool designs right in the park. They had a big guitar jam. Everyone was invited to bring out their guitars and bring out any kind of instruments and be a part of this big jam that happened downtown. And then they also had poetry in the park. There's another option around multiculturalism. Wanuskewin does a Culture Days usually every year. You can go out there and pound choke cherries, you can make bannock, you can learn traditional music and dance, you can go on their traditional trail walks, and just go out there for free for the day. Again, everything that's offered is free. So this is about them celebrating the First Nations culture and ways they went about it. The town of Rosthern, they kind of did some really cool things this year. They did art demonstrations, they had live entertainment, they had family art activities so everyone could come out and build something together. They had a local artist reception, so the artists were available to provide feedback and talk to the community. They had First Nations storytelling. They had Arts in the Alley, which is a new initiative that's happening in Rosthern that just connected to their Culture Days activities. The Rosthern Heritage Museum offered everything for free, and there was no admission that day. The dance workshops they had, so you can see a picture of that up in the corner. Everyone's learning some Indian dance there. And then the blacksmith demonstration. So you could go and watch someone blacksmith and see what that's all about. The city of PA had a big hub, and their theme was telling your stories. But they took that and used it throughout their whole entire event. So they had storytelling through dance. They had living libraries where you could go and there were actual people where you could interview them, talk to them, ask them questions. They had mayors, they had a local First Nations, they had local individuals come forward and be a part of this living library so you can check out a person and not a book. They had a Paint Your Life Story, which had a Métis focus to it. They had a Writing Your Life Stories workshop. So again, providing that support to the community through a professional writer who would help people to tell their life stories. They had a cultural cafe, which was an open mic type of deal. And then they had an urban art tour, so you could go around and walk and check out all the cool art in the city of PA. We have tons and tons of different opportunities and different success stories that have happened for Culture Days. There's a YouTube video or a YouTube page. It's the SaskCulture YouTube page. On there, you're going to find some videos of past Culture Days activities, so you can get an idea of what happened in Allen last year or what happened through the Art Gallery of Regina last year. So there's some really cool little videos on there that gives you an idea of what's going on and other ideas if you're looking for some. That is about all I have to share with you today. In terms of promotional support in the office, you can contact Shelley Fayant. She's our communications consultant. Her phone number is right there, 780-9289, or sfayant@saskculture.ca. If you are looking for funding and have some questions around that, you can contact myself at 780-9295 or drobinson@saskculture.ca. I'd like to thank everyone for checking out this webinar, and we're here to help out in any ways possible. And culture builds community, and Culture Days is a great tool to help do that. So thank you.